Let me start with a question. If you stopped working tomorrow, not forever, just for a few months, how long would your life stay the same? Not your long-term dreams, not your retirement plans, just your current lifestyle, the rent, the car payment, the groceries, the quiet subscriptions you barely notice anymore. For most people in the US and Europe, the honest answer is not very long. And what's interesting is that this is true even for people who earn good money. People with degrees, stable jobs, respectable salaries, people who did everything they were told would lead to financial security. So today, I want to talk about something that's often misunderstood. Passive income, not as a shortcut, not as a fantasy, but as a sequence of quiet financial milestones that slowly but permanently change how money works in your life. Not overnight, not dramatically, but structurally. Let's imagine a fairly typical situation. You're in your late 20s or 30s. You live in the US, the UK, Germany, France, any developed economy really. You earn the equivalent of $60,000 to $90,000 a year. After tax, that becomes something like $3,500 to $5,000 per month. Rent or mortgage takes 30 to 40%. Transportation, car payment, insurance, fuel, or public transit takes another chunk. Student loans, maybe a credit card balance, groceries, utilities, phone, subscriptions, occasional travel. Nothing reckless, nothing extreme, just normal life. On paper, you're doing okay, but mentally, money still feels tight. Not desperate, just fragile. One unexpected expense, a medical bill, job change, rent increase, and suddenly the stress returns. This is where most people think the problem is income. If I just earned more, this would go away. But that's not actually the system flaw, the hidden mistake most people don't see. The real issue is that all of your income depends on your continued effort. Every dollar you earn requires you to show up again tomorrow. Your job might be stable, your industry might be solid, but the structure is still fragile. And here's the part people rarely calculate. If your monthly expenses are $3,500 and your job pays you $4,200 after tax, your entire lifestyle depends on a $700 margin. That margin feels like safety, but it's not safety. It's exposure. And psychologically, that exposure keeps you locked into short-term thinking. You avoid risks. You delay changes. You optimize for comfort, not resilience. This is where passive income starts to matter, not as an idea, but as a mental shift. The first milestone doesn't replace your job. It doesn't free you from work. It simply removes pressure. Imagine this. Instead of earning $4,200 and spending $3,500, you earn $4,200, spend $3,500, and $300 arrives each month without requiring your time. Not exciting. Not impressive, but powerful, because now part of your life is no longer dependent on your employer's mood, the economy, or your energy level. Psychologically, this does something important. It creates distance between survival and employment. You stop thinking, I can't afford to make a mistake, and start thinking, I have room to breathe. Most people skip this stage because it doesn't feel meaningful. But financially intelligent people understand something subtle. Relieving pressure comes before building wealth. The human brain is terrible at valuing small, consistent gains. A $300 passive income stream feels insignificant next to a full salary, so people dismiss it, but they'll happily take on a $300 monthly car payment for a depreciating asset that adds zero future flexibility. That's not a math problem, that's a psychology problem. We emotionally reward visible upgrades and ignore invisible stability, and that bias keeps people financially exposed longer than necessary. If all your income requires effort, your career choices shrink. You stay longer in jobs you dislike. You delay skill changes. You negotiate less aggressively, not because you're weak, but because your financial structure leaves no margin for error. This is how people stay stuck while earning more than previous generations ever did. The second milestone is where things quietly change. This is when passive income doesn't just help, it covers something real. A utility bill, a car payment, a portion of rent. Let's say your passive income grows to $1,200 per month. You still work, you still earn your salary, but now a fixed expense is no longer tied to your labor. This creates a psychological separation that's hard to explain unless you've experienced it. Your job becomes income, not survival. You stop asking, "Can I afford to leave?" and start asking, "Is this still worth my time?" That question alone changes behavior because reaching it requires patience. No flashy wins, no dopamine hits. It often means delaying lifestyle upgrades that your peers are already enjoying. And socially, that's uncomfortable, especially in cultures where visible consumption signals success. But financially intelligent people understand something most people don't. Covering boring expenses is more powerful than funding exciting ones. Freedom starts with the unglamorous parts of life. If your lifestyle is fully dependent on earned income, raises don't improve freedom. They increase expectations. You earn more, you spend more, your baseline rises, and the gap between working and not working stays the same. This is lifestyle inflation, not as a moral failure, but as a structural trap. The final milestone is not about quitting work. It's about optional work. This is when passive income covers a significant portion, sometimes most, of your basic living costs. At this point, work becomes a decision, not an obligation. You can reduce hours, change roles, move locations, say no, not impulsively, not emotionally, rationally. And this is where psychology fully shifts. You stop optimizing for income maximization and start optimizing for quality of life. Ironically, many people earn more at this stage because they're no longer operating from fear, because it's never framed this way. Passive income is marketed as escape, as freedom from effort, as early retirement. But in reality, it's about progressive detachment from financial pressure, step by step, expense by expense. No hype, no shortcuts, just structural change. How financially intelligent people think differently. They don't ask, "How fast can I get rich?" They ask, "Which expense can I permanently disconnect from my time?" They don't chase income spikes. They build income layers. And they understand that the goal isn't to stop working. It's to stop needing to work under pressure. Most people aren't financially irresponsible. They're financially overexposed. And the quiet power of passive income isn't the money. It's the psychological relief that comes from knowing your life doesn't collapse if something changes. If this perspective helped you see your finances a little more clearly, consider subscribing. Not for motivation, just for calm, rational conversations about money that actually fits real life. Thanks for watching.